Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. My name is Ted Moreno, hypnotherapist, certified hypnotherapist, and high performance coach. And what I do and have been doing for 21 years is helping people change their minds using the tool of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And if you think you need your mind changed and you're interested in using hypnosis or hypnotherapy to make that very powerful change, then I will tell you how to get in touch with me at the end of today's show. But for now, let's get into the topic of today's episode: 8 things my 65-year-old self would tell my 25-year-old self. So, yes, I turned 65 this month, which is a milestone, I guess. For one thing, I now qualify for Medicare. Yay! I've been getting offers in the mail for discounts on Depends. And if you don't know what Depends are, you can look that up. And despite their repeated invitations, I haven't joined the AARP just yet. And for you youngsters out there, that stands for the American Association of Retired People. And I am neither retired nor ready to retire anytime soon. Thank you. I've also noticed, curiously, people being a little bit more deferential to me. You know what I mean? Opening doors for me, letting me go ahead of them in line, calling me sir. I thought it might be the dazzling, dashing, stylish vibe that I project, but I'm pretty sure that's not it. More than likely, it's the gray little beard and the gray at the temples, which makes people either think that I know something that they don't, or that I'm just an old person and you should be nice to old people. I'll let you decide how old 65 is. However, I can say that I seem to be older than most of the people that I'm around these days. So maybe I do know something. At this stage of the game, 65 years old, I'm looking back over my life like many people do, remembering and thinking about the choices I've made. I see my life now as a path going back to 1960, the year I was born. And since then, a lot of things have happened. A lot of things went well, but a lot of things really sucked, like everybody else's life. And you start thinking, what if I had done that differently? What if I had made a different choice? Obviously, it's easy to look back in hindsight with another 30 or 40 years of experience and say, oh, yeah, I could have, should have, would have. But when all is said and done, all you can do is what you can do with the information that you have at the time. We make our choices based on what we know at the time. And sometimes, if we're lucky, someone is there to give us more information, guidance, and knowledge. And better information at any age can lead to better decisions, obviously. So, if my 65-year-old self could talk to my 25-year-old self, this is what I would tell that dark-haired, skinny kid, even though I'm not sure he would have listened. First, I'd tell him to take better care of himself. Eat better food. Get just a bit more sleep. Get more exercise. Take better care of your teeth. Watch out for the dark sides of alcohol and drugs. Stay away from troublemakers and toxic people. When your own self-care becomes one of your top priorities, you think better. You do more and you do it better. You feel better about everything, including yourself, and you have more clarity of mind. I remember many times when I was in my 20s having to make a choice between paying my credit card bill and eating. And I would always pay the credit card first. Then one day, as I looked into an empty refrigerator, I thought to myself, what am I doing? I went out and I bought a bunch of good quality food, called the credit card company, and guess what? A few months later, I paid the credit card off. Why? Well, I was able to work harder and focus better because I wasn't hungry. Second, I would tell that 25-year-old, work on your confidence and self-esteem. Hold yourself up and see yourself as someone that has value. Bless yourself and see yourself as whole and complete, even if you're screwing stuff up. Most importantly, do whatever you can to let go of any thought or feeling that you're less than or not good enough. That kind of thinking is deadly, and you need to do everything you can to change it. Third, I would stress the importance and value of accomplishment. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Strive for something above just getting by. Nothing in life worth having comes easy. Hard work and sacrifice are needed. Have goals that you want to accomplish, even if they're simple, such as getting out of bed before a certain time, or exercising regularly, or reading every day. I would tell him that the most important goal or aspiration should be that of his own personal self development, his own personal transformation, to work on becoming better, smarter, more motivated, and more productive. The fourth thing I would say would be to encourage him to be persistent and not give up so easily. I like to say every master was once a disaster. Not being good at something while learning it is uncomfortable, but be willing to be uncomfortable while you learn. Keep moving forward and realize that failure is a necessary part of success. Number five, learn to manage your time. Next to your health, your time is your most valuable asset. Manage it and learn to use it wisely. It will become so much more valuable as you grow older. Learning to deal effectively with procrastination is a must because it will stop you like nothing else will. Learn to take action as quickly as you need to. Balance productivity with rest and relaxation. Now, I have to add here that although I have to add here that rest and relaxation were not really things I had to struggle to achieve. They came very naturally to me. Okay. But I would still give that advice to have some balance. Next, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to do it on your own. There are people out there that are willing to help you, or at least willing to give you valuable information. I was told by a person much smarter than me when I was in my 20s that my biggest problem was that I was not open to the contribution of others because I thought I knew everything. Remember, this was in my 20s. And it was true. I had to be the smart guy, the know it all, and I certainly was not going to listen to what anybody else had to say about it. However, when I finally realized that I didn't know much of anything, and in many ways couldn't tell my ass from a hole in the ground, I started to seek the counsel of people smarter and more experienced than me, and people that had more knowledge than me. One of the most helpful and earliest memories of doing this was when I wanted to be a long distance trucker. I'd just seen the movie White Line Fever with Jan Michael Vincent, and it romanticized long distance trucking as a cool life on the road. Well, one day I met a long distance trucker and I asked him, I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about becoming a long distance trucker. What do you think?" And he said, "Don't do it. It's a terrible job. You're never home. You're always eating crappy food. You don't get paid much for the trouble. And all that sitting leads to hemorrhoids." So he was discouraging. Of course, that was just his opinion, but it was the only opinion I had, so I chose not to become a long distance trucker. Let me right now give a shout out to all those truckers who keep the supply chain intact. Gratitude for what you do and how you do it. Then I thought it would be cool to be a radio DJ. So I actually called one of the radio stations and actually talked to the DJ. This was back in the 70s when you can actually talk to Wolfman Jack or some of these other DJs in the LA area. So I asked the DJ, I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about becoming a radio DJ. What do you think?" And he said, "Don't do it." He said, "I should have gone to law school or medical school. Instead, I'm sitting in this chair all day in this little box and it gets boring." Maybe being a DJ has changed since then, but that's what he told me, and I followed his advice. So it was helpful to admit that I didn't know and to be able to ask those who did. Next, I would grab that 25-year-old by his scruffy t-shirt. I would get right into his face and I'd tell him that the quality of his relationships will determine the quality of his life. I'd say to spend time with quality people, people that treat you well, people that support you, encourage you, and inspire you. Get away from those that would tear you down, suck your energy, and take but not give. I'd say cultivate quality relationships because they will be an ongoing source of friendship, love, and support, and there is no shortcut to this, whether it be a happy, successful marriage or a close, abiding, deep friendship. Finally, I would tell my 25-year-old self, have the courage to be true to yourself. All kinds of people will tell you all kinds of things and what you should do and who you should be. Listen to your own heart. Trust your instincts and have the character to follow your own values, to do what you feel is the right thing to do, even if everyone else is telling you something different. Have the courage to speak out against injustice. Recognize liars and con men and walk away. Draw boundaries that protect you and stick to these boundaries. And always, always do what you can to stay connected to the goodness inside of you. I would say this is what I've learned for a happy, healthy life. Like I said before, the 25-year-old me might not have listened, but I would like to think that he would at least have saved a podcast, even though there were no podcasts at the time, or printed this blog post out and maybe come across it when it was needed the most. The reason I say that is because I have come across stuff that I've cut out when I was 25 in my early 30s. I have come across articles and things that I pulled out of magazines, and they were helpful years later. Isn't it interesting? So that's what I would say if I could talk to my 25-year-old self, but I can't, and that's okay. Everything turned out pretty good. However, if you know someone, a young man or young woman in their 20s or even 30s, and you think this blog post or podcast episode might be helpful to them, well, why not share it with them? And whether you are 25 or 65 or somewhere in between, if you need support with any of these 8 things or anything else, you can reach out for a complimentary phone consultation by going to tedmoreno.com/contact, tedmoreno.com/contact. I'll get back to you as soon as possible to answer your questions and schedule your first session if you're ready. Let me leave you with a quote by American poet Nikki Giovanni. I really don't think life is about the I could have beens. Life is only about the I tried to do. I don't mind the failure, but I can't imagine that I'd forgive myself if I didn't try. Thank you so much for listening today, and take good care of yourself. Bye-bye now.